Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers podcast. Today I'm joined by Carl Perichak, who is Engineering Director for Infrastructure and Tools at Super.com. Super.com, born in San Francisco. Carl's actually coming out of Canada, so it's early morning for him while he's talking to us at the moment. Super.com is essentially an all in one app to save, earn, and put money in your pocket. These guys are 200 plus people. They've raised over 200 million. They've gone through a Series C round. They're pretty awesome. And we've got a pretty awesome schedule today in terms of talking about different tooling, developer experience, and some of the stuff that Kyle's built into his teams and how he's built it. So we're going to break that down over the next period of time. First, Kyle, thanks for coming to join us.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Elliot.
Absolute pleasure. Do you want to give us a bit of a background into you, your role at Super, but also your background generally and where you've come from as an engineer?
Yeah, sure. So my role at Super is I'm an engineering director for infrastructure and tools. So I'm accountable for a few sort of areas in the company. So there's QA, there's DevOps, there's security, and a couple internal tooling teams that they're responsible for building things for sort of the stakeholders that work at the company, as opposed to our end customer. And we're also accountable for developer experience, basically acting as a force multiplier for our developers. So that's what I do here. And several teams, we all work together on that sort of shared mission. And then how I got here, I actually studied for networking, security. Tried to run my own business for a while. Knocking on doors, selling websites. Did the whole enterprise software development thing. Jumped into the IT world. Tried some of that, some professional services. Uh, Tried a tiny startup. That was a lot of fun. Wanted something a little bigger. Found my way here.
Love it. Talk to us about super.com and give us almost the elevator pitch
Yeah,
and what you guys are doing.
for sure. So it's a an all-in-one product to put money in your pocket, like you said. So we've got travel. You can book hotels online effectively. Uh, we've got you can build your credit. You don't need a credit score for this. This is serving a lot of underbanked Americans who don't have access to this sort of high-end, you know, tool. You can play games. You can do surveys. Basically, you can earn money within the application. And then we have a whole bunch of other partnerships. So you can buy things online. You can effectively just save money and live a kind of life that you might not have had access to without this sort of product.
Love it. I love these apps at the moment. We've got a couple here in the UK. Super.com, I think they've built this multifunctional saving app from what it looks like, and no doubt what we're going to talk about. But I love the engineering that's gone into it. So I do want to break down a little bit about this developer experience journey, this enablement journey that you guys have been on, and the one that we've been talking about offline. So I think it'd be really good for you to set the scene on the journey that you've been on, especially developer experience. Talk to us about point A, point B, and how you actually got there as teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined the company, it was a smaller company, but we still had a lot of microservices. We had quite a few teams, and everyone sort of had their own workstation. They set everything up their own way, and there was sort of a first pass at building a, you could call it a developer platform or some developer tooling in the form of a command line. You could start your services, you could run your unit and integration tests with this command line, but it was difficult to use, and people's environments were constantly having problems. The DevOps team was spending a lot of their time just, oh, you don't have the right version of Boto free for Amazon installed or whatever, fixing things up like that, like developer by developer, and it was very hard to test changes too. So like we had a shared staging environment that everyone has, like, "Can I borrow staging?" was a constant thing people were saying because everybody was taking turns. And in a very, very small company, that's a-okay. But as we scaled, that became a friction point. So what we did is we started a whole program basically to roll out a more modern approach to this and to also move away from how we got code to production. We had a rather traditional, almost Git flow style approach instead of like trunk based development where you merge and it deploys. So we wanted to get there. We wanted to get there in a really safe way. So what we did is we made what we called our CD program. And that involved rolling out several different bits of developer tooling, chatbots, things that go in the pipeline, and some really, really sophisticated tooling in Kubernetes, which is where all of our microservices live. Leveraging Istio, leveraging header-based routing, Canary releases through Argo, that sort of thing. And we built a great big spreadsheet basically of like, here's all the things everybody needs to do. And over a quarter or two, we rolled it all out. And then using Datadog, we measured, how is every service being deployed and how often to really spend our time where it counts and brought everything in from the most impactful to like the least into this program. And we've been iterating on it ever since. It's come a really long way.
Love it. Talk to me a little bit about where you are today. And there's also a couple of bits in there that I do want to touch on because I'd love to understand that point where you're scaling the business, you're understanding actually that you're creating blockers for one another. So to create the CD program, I'm really interested in where's that inflection point?
Yeah, for sure. So we're big on cycle time here as one of our sort of success metrics for how well is an engineering team doing. And cycle time, by the way, is the measurement of sort of when you start work to when it gets to production. And we measure that. We've got all sorts of tooling. So that starts to balloon for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons that can happen is you're just waiting, you're blocked. And that can happen because I'm testing my change in our shared staging environment and it conflicts with your change. So you can't work. And now I'm blocked on QA. Let's say I made my change, but now I need QA to review my change because it's a high risk change and we need people to come in and do that. So other developers are basically context switching, saying, all right, well, I'm going to put this on hold. I'm going to go work on something else. And that's expensive, just always. But on top of that, they have to come back and merge it in. And now probably have to fix the conflicts because, things have changed and start the process over again. It was really slow and it was very difficult to work on, if you want to change two services at a time, that wasn't working, that sort of thing. So that was sort of a real problem state. The other problem state was teams were not really autonomous. So it was very hard to just work on your own. And it's as soon as you need to bring someone else into the loop, things slow down. So the DevOps team often needed to jump in and fix some problem. The QA team had to work in sequence because of the single staging environment. So those sorts of things were the problems we were trying to solve initially.
Yeah, I love it. I think it'd be really good to touch on you going it all in on a couple of technologies. We spoke about this online and we were speaking about Kubernetes, Istio, and your ideas on we wanted to really invest in these technologies. So, talk to us about that moment where you decided you're going to go all in on these and why.
Yeah, for sure. So when I joined the company, we had just sort of recently moved almost everything into Kubernetes. And I can't take credit for that. It was already going when I got here, but it was an amazing transformation that we were able to leverage to get even further. So, just to touch on that really quick, because it's exceptional, doing that let us declare everything as code. Declarative infrastructure is super maintainable, super reviewable. Like the change control process is as transparent and like revertible as you can ever want. So, like, that's all great. And then it also scales well. There's sort of a sentiment in DevOps that DevOps is kind of everyone's problem. You don't want it to be sort of a single person's, like a single team's responsibility. Every team should do DevOps. And if you have a DevOps team, they're more lifting everyone up. So by having everything all in on Kubernetes, every single service is able to sort of declare its own infrastructure in its own repository using shared common, dry templates that the DevOps team maintains. And it's really straightforward. It's really stable. Things like auto scaling and all the complicated sort of infrastructure, going to nerd out and make this work amazing in production. No, developers don't need to worry about that. They get it for free. And Kubernetes handles all of that and gives us all of sort of the controls to do that. The other thing that Kubernetes does, though, that sort of brings us into the DevX world is it's got fantastic networking capabilities, data networking. So we rolled out Istio, and Istio just on its own is a fantastic piece of software. But one of the things that really made it stand out for us when we wanted to solve the problem of having sort of this single threaded staging environment is we could do header based routing. So what we were able to do is we went all in on Istio, and basically everything uses it now. Every single packet has, MTLS thanks to Istio. So, nice security situation there. But the bigger other benefit is that we were able to route to your development version. We call it a staging branch environment. While you're working, and the QAs can do it, the end-to-end tests can do it, like the browser-based automation tests for regression and such. All of this was made possible when we went in on Istio. And then the last technology piece that we did, that we experimented with several pieces, was Argo CD. We were already a GitLab shop. We were pretty happy with GitLab CI, but in terms of comparing releases for like blue-green releases, this was sort of the missing piece to get to trunk-based development. We couldn't just merge to master, merge to the main branch, and say it's good, ship it, and feel okay with that. We had a chat ops style approach historically of, hey, human, you built a thing, I need you to watch it. And we built that, and that was okay. And we still use it for the odd high risk thing, but that's not fast. So the other technology that we really, really focused in on is Argo paired with Datadog and custom monitoring. So every time a release happens, we're able to check, is it okay? Does it need to be reverted? If there is a problem, we have like an escalation path of, hey, can you please take a look at this? So those are sort of the three big pieces there: Kubernetes, Istio, and Argo, along with a whole lot of custom Slack automation with an internal service that really made this possible.
Love it. What does that exploration process actually look like when you spoke at the end about Argo CD? And you've always been a GitLab shop and you're looking at a number of different pieces of software on the market. What does that exploration process actually look like when you've got three pieces of software to use? How do you go through that process of choosing the best technology for the purpose here? Because there's trade-offs across the board, right?
Yeah, we actually we have a relatively mature approach to this at our company. We have a decision making framework spreadsheet that adds some structure to this. We also have a very similar build by spreadsheet, and these both sort of come into play. So when we're evaluating different products, we outline, these are the outcomes that we need, and then we basically fill in the sheet saying, these are the different things that they do. Argo was sort of an easy win. That one was not contentious. Using Istio for the header based routing actually was not as easy to come to that conclusion. We tried a product out. I think it's called Telepresence, something along that. It's a CI/CD project. It seemed great, but it's not free beyond a certain amount that you use it, and we didn't realize that until we rolled it out. And we found out in a rather surprising and unpleasant way of basically the logs saying, "Hey, this isn't free anymore." Uh, so we evaluated that, and we're like, "Well, you know what? We could pay for it, but let's try Istio out." And that one wasn't a very structured, decision making framework thing. That was just a quick. We got one of our really excellent senior engineers to just, "Hey, try this out," and it works. So that was more ad hoc than our typical process of like a very structured decision making framework.
Yeah.
But we do both.
FinOps is a real thing now. I know it's been a word, phrase that people are using now for probably the last 5, 10 years. It's not new on the market, but FinOps is a thing. Yeah, it's real life thing. You've got to do this right and sensibly versus cost.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think to that point, it's just important to be organized. Uh, we're really big. I'm a tooling nerd. I really dislike toil. Every time I see a problem, I think, how can we tool this out? And super.com is a company that really celebrates that approach of automate all the things and so on. So when we start talking FinOps, we start talking tooling. And we take a look at, how can we measure utilization of our products? How can we measure, you know, well, do we have a process for contract negotiation as well? Like that sort of thing, to get the best price. All and security and everything rolling into that as well. But yeah, it's certainly a real thing, and it's a thing that we invest tools into to make it easier.
Good, love it. I love the automation behind it as well. Um, that's key. That is key. Building something like super.com, you need to make it fault tolerant. I know that. So I'd love to touch on the fault tolerancy elements to super.com and what you've introduced to make it a fault tolerant system.
Yeah, yeah, this one's exciting. So we can start with sort of the basics that everyone's expected to do. We're an Amazon shop, so cross AZ hosting Kubernetes makes this really easy for us as well. So we've got that, of course. Your usual, got to have more than one replica, got to have load balancers, that sort of thing. We've done some really interesting things beyond that, though. So one of the interesting fault tolerance things we've done is with our auto scaling. Uh, we've basically integrated that into Datadog. So we're using significantly more sophisticated metrics than just CPU utilization to scale up and scale down. Argo is also now involved, part of our Canary release process. And it's not only controlling sort of the scale up, scale down, but it's controlling the release in really, really interesting ways. So we don't have a lot of infrastructure failures. Being all in on cloud means the data center never loses power. The fiber seeking backhoe never takes out the internet. That sort of thing isn't something we need to worry about. What we do need to worry about, though, is a breaking change. We do a lot of changes. Somewhere between 500 and 1,000 a month is not unheard of for us. So for us to do that level of, or for us to move that fast, we take risks. And faults are possible. So the Canary process that we have has become quite sophisticated. We release in a traditional, 50-50 split for a period of time. And we've got all sorts of checks. We're watching Track.js, we're watching Datadog, we're watching other internal tools that we have as well that monitor how effective our product is being used sort of at an end customer level. And we ingest all of that. And if things start to go above tolerances, we warn a automatically managed sustainability group. So every service has a roster of people who build it. You build it, you own it. Very DevOps, very modern. Uh, so those people have a rotation, and everyone knows it's all tooled out in Slack. We built our own Slack tools for this, so you can tell who's on rotation. And if something isn't looking right, first it's a bit of a warning saying, "Hey, man, this isn't okay. Come take a look, please." And you get some buttons, and you say, "I looked at it. This is okay. Don't worry, ship it." Or you can say, "Whoa, no." And if you say no, you click the red button, then immediately it handles the whole cleanup in revert. And every now and then somebody does that Friday night deploy that doesn't go well. Then they all sign off and everyone goes home. And when that happens, there's a chance that no one will answer the call of, hey, something has gone wrong. The machine has the ability and will just revert it. It's, you know what, it's not looking good. The A/B test didn't go well. We pull it back all on our own. No harm done. It's okay. If things go really bad from there, we do have an escalation path like every company does, where they're not pagers anymore, but the phones start ringing and that sort of thing. But that is super rare. That this system has been so successful at ensuring that our products, when they are released, are just super stable and fault tolerant. that it makes for a really lightweight, support load.
You need a really solid incident management, incident response process nowadays. I think it's critical. There's lots of really good players on the market who are building software, building tooling around this. But if you can do that yourself, I think that's equally powerful.
100%. We built a lot of it ourselves, but we can't take all the credit. We have partnered with other companies too. We've bought one product. I'll share the name. They're called Backa. We're really happy with them, and they're doing AI incident response. And this is really exciting for us too. So the way we manage incidents is we have a shared channel where all of our very important Datadog monitors go. Every team has their own ones too, but these are like the holy smokes, somebody needs to look into this. We've got someone on call to like triage these. And we've actually got an AI system now that is looking at it, matching it up with logs, taking guesses at what's going on. And it's right surprisingly often. And the other thing that it's doing is when we create an incident, and I think a lot of the tooling these days does this, where it makes like a dedicated incident channel and it brings all the appropriate people in, that sort of thing. We've got that happening now. But on top of that, the AI system is sort of our stenographer now. So it's writing the RCA, it's filling in like the start and end date, it's letting us measure, mean time to recovery, mean time to identification, these important stats that I as a leader really care about for how are we doing
Yeah.
are being handled instead of being toil.
Yeah, exactly. There are also some really good other products on the market for people listening. Incident IO, we featured Incident IO before, who are great. And I've been speaking to the guys down at Incident IO recently, actually, and they've introduced a lot of AI features, functionality. We're going to be talking to them in the next couple of months, but they're equally solid as well. But good, I think it's an important area. I know about this because I spoke to Chris previously, so it's an important area.
Yeah, I've seen Incident IO's product and it looks incredible. I'm very
Yeah,
impressed with the work they're doing too.
yeah. Talk to us about the move to go all in on Coda as well, and
Yeah,
where you were in that move to Coda because you
for
loved
sure.
this one.
Yeah, I'm very excited about Coder. So I mentioned earlier in our chat that when I joined, the DevOps team was spending a lot of their time helping engineers get their environment set up, fix the problems. Oh, this package is wrong. You've got the wrong kubelet version installed. Whatever. Uh, our time to actually get going was really slow. Another really awesome thing about super.com is we have a really, really active intern program, which is great. We get tons of interns coming in and out, but they only stay for 4 months. So we do way more onboarding than a normal company our size would do. So the cost of getting an engineer up and running skyrockets. So we needed to solve this, and it wasn't just like a maybe one day kind of problem. It was a right now problem. And cloud development environments uh, were the solution. So they're not for everyone. We do have, especially some senior engineers that've been doing this for 15 years. I got to use my Vim and it's got to be on my system. And fine, we'll make that work for you. And that's awesome. And thank you for being amazing. But for, your everyday engineer who wants to come in and get coding on like the first hour that they're on the job, our cloud development environment is perfect. When I code, I use it. So what it is it's not quite a VM. It runs on Kubernetes. And it's a virtual environment that your VS Code plugs into. And it's running like Docker and Docker, and it can run all of our services. It checks out all of our code. It's got everything set up that you need. So we've got Flake 8 and Black and formatters, linters, those sorts of things. You want to use Bandit for your security, static analysis, that sort of thing. It's all baked right in and it's ready to go. And there's no, oh, there's a problem with my environment. I can't run my code. I can't work. That never happens because it's ephemeral. It's you throw it out and you get a new one if there's a problem. So there's no troubleshooting. There's no putting it back together. It's totally defined as code. It's totally manageable at scale. And it doesn't matter what's on your workstation. All you need is your VPN. And then you start it up and there you go. And if the DevOps team wants to scale something out to everyone all at once, we're all about to support Python 3.11. Uh, and here's how you set up. No, it's just please restart your environment. You've got it now. All you have to do is use PyEnv and you're in.
I love this. And I personally think this is really modern, as in like a modern software engineering environment. I've heard of a couple of other companies that have embraced this. How long does this process take to get you fully functional building an environment like this where you can get people up and running within the hour? How long does that take?
Yeah, it the first time we did it, we used a different product and we've migrated off of that into Coder now. Uh, we've done both in less than a quarter, and we don't have a huge DevOps team. We have an exceptionally talented DevOps team, which helps, but it's not a ton of work because these products are meant to be used for this. Like they're accessible, their coder's open source. Like you can spin it up in your house for yourself in like a day or two of just poking at it. Getting it tuned just so is quite a bit harder. Uh, Teams are opinionated, and some companies have very varied teams where every team works a slightly different way. You do need a level of consistency that can be more of a cultural problem than a technological problem to solve to get this rolled out so that everybody is happy. Like, for instance, we use an opinionated code formatter. That was not a battle for us. We rolled it out and everyone was okay. I've worked at other places where people are like, no, it is two spaces for indentation, not four, and I will die on this hill. Like, so we didn't have to fight that battle, but some places would. And that would make it take longer because it's only easy if it's the same thing for everyone.
I don't want to use the word process because some people might not like that word process, but the consistency in your culture, like of everyone does things the same way. And I guess like one of the DNA points of developer experience is to speed people up. It really does speed people up if everyone's consistent on doing the same things the same way. That's why I love this. Like we spoke to Monzo, they took us on their platform engineering journey. They do the same thing. I think it's a really modern way of working to really, really speed people up so people can have impact straight away. Um, that's why I love it.
I love it too. I think there is a balance to strike because you don't want to be stifling. You want your engineers to be autonomous and to be able to do new things, but you also want to be able to support them at scale and to enable them. A really good example of that is moving from something like Flask, which is a very successful, very popular Python framework, to Fast API, which is a newer, also popular framework. Uh, we're very much of the opinion you can't just do anything. We don't want one team doing Go, one team doing Ruby, one team doing Java, one team. We can't support that. But on the flip side, when our architecture guild talks and they say, you know what, it's time. Let's try this new thing out. We all agree. We do support that. Like the you do have to strike a balance of not entirely homogenous, like having room for new things, going from Python 3.9 to 3.11, that sort of thing, while also facilitating growth and change, but at scale.
Yeah. What's been your biggest learning in that quarter of building this environment? The biggest learning?
Ooh, that's a fun one. I think there were a number of technological learnings. One, Istio is amazing. Just the things you can do with Istio. I knew it was great before we came in, but just I was blown away with how much we can do with Istio. Uh, so from a tech standpoint, probably that. From like a people standpoint, it is incredible how much passionate, skilled engineers can get done quickly. But from like a CI/CD sort of program to roll this out, I think an important learning there while sort of running the program was it's not enough just to build it and make it available. You really do need to talk to the people and find the impactful services, turn it on, make sure everyone's voice is heard, and keep on it. Just getting the technology in place without getting adoption is not going to be good enough. We hit a point where we'd got, the major big services in and kind of expected everything else to fall into place, and it didn't. People were happy enough to just keep doing things the way they were doing, even though there was a better way, because they had momentum. And that's something that I don't think we had noticed going into this. That, once it's there, we figured people would, you know, let's all just adopt it. And that wasn't quite the case. People were happy to use it once we got them in, but there was some work actually to sell it at a much lower level than I would have thought would be needed. Of like, hey, team working on this service, you're not in the system yet. Why not? Is there a problem? Usually it's no, we just haven't gotten to it yet. It's like, all right, let's get you in there. Let's go. A little bit of that was needed, and that was a bit of a learning too. I had kind of figured, you build the tech and people will use it, and that wasn't quite true.
Yeah, people have their way of doing things, and if it's working, people don't want to break it. People do want to do what they're used to. So I totally get that. I totally get that. Um, it's been really insightful over the last 30 minutes, learning more about technologies, ways of working, what's been really powerful for you, setting up your coder environment. I particularly loved that. I'd love to touch on where is super.com going, as in next 12 months, where are you anticipating potentially business to be? We don't necessarily need to touch too much on that if there's some secrets that are going on in terms of product builds or business plans, but really understanding growth. If people are listening, where's the business going to grow? How can people get in touch with you guys and understand how can I be a part of this journey?
Yeah. So I think to keep it pretty high level, uh, the really interesting and big strength that we're really doubling down on and investing in is this concept of the all-in-one super app. That's something you don't see a lot of in North America historically, but it's been very successful in sort of other economies. And we're able to leverage this in really interesting ways by bundling things together. Everyone's seen like a credit card and you get like travel points and you can go to some clunky website and who knows what you're able to use there, that sort of thing. When we have this all in one app, it's all very accessible, it's all very usable, and it's created a mechanism for us to add value over time. So we have a membership program, and our members get access to just all sorts of things like deals, cash advance style services, travel, credits. Um, we have too much to list, but basically, where we're going is we're making that even richer. We're adding more integrations, we're adding more capabilities. So this one little app is able to do more and more within a single ecosystem, and it's becoming exceptionally powerful. I'm really excited to see where that takes us next.
Okay. You're actually right now you say it. Off the top of my head, I probably couldn't think of all in one super apps. I can here in UK, Europe, Asia, even. I can think of a number of super apps. I think the US are incredible at building one product, obviously, multiple functionalities inside of that, but I'm excited to see where you guys are going to go with this. So, people listening, obviously, follow the guys and girls at super.com. Check out a little bit more about what they're building, website, careers page. They're hiring an awful lot of people. Go check those guys and girls out. Um, Lastly, Kyle, top three things that you think a software engineer needs in today's climate to thrive.
Ooh, fun. I think a well-scoped problem is probably the number one. Uh, the software engineers need to know what they're building and why. From there, I've learned that a talented software engineer can act with exceptional autonomy once they know the problem space very well. The next would be a just good tooling. Having the right tools to do the job. Having when you're working at scale, it's very different than sort of cowboy coding, where I'm just going to slap it together and make it go. The definition of done for like good quality work needs to be crystal clear, and the way to get there needs to be clear too, to build really great software. And I think the last thing that's really important for building great software, and like the most important thing, is having a really good culture. Like the culture of the company that you're working with, the team that you're in, is I can't understate the value of it. It is so impactful in the way that we build software and just the way that we live as people who build software, that if you had everything else in place but that was missing, you're not going to build great software. So I think if I was going to pick like three high level things, that would be the three.
Love that. I love the culture part. I also love the really understanding what you're building and why. There's a couple of different points that spin off that. Being really customer or product focused. We've also had like really understanding your domain and having that domain or problem expertise. I think is really, really important. So I totally agree. Um, it's been a really fun 35 minutes. I'm really excited to see where the business goes. Kyle, I want to say a massive thanks for coming to join us on the Engineers podcast. I've really enjoyed it. I'm confident other people are going to enjoy it. So a huge thank you.
Well, thank you. This has been a ton of fun.
Good man. For everyone liking, sharing, subscribing, that's massively important to the engineers ecosystem. So please continue to do so. It's really important for us. It does mean that we can kick on and continue to share some really good stories with you guys about amazing products that are being built and how they're being built. So a massive thanks from everyone at Engineers. Kyle, thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.